Hey everyone, this is Dr. B from Steps to the Future, coming to you with this evening's live conversation, college and career conversations. Now, people may be looking at the title and saying, Celebrating Black History Month. What does that have to do with college and career? Wearing my hat as a retired social studies history teacher, I'm going to have just a quick conversation with you this evening about celebrating Black history 365 days a year. So come back, join me, get your pad and pencil, get your favorite beverage, get your favorite snack, and I'll be back with you in a second. Hey, so we're back. So many of you may know that prior to becoming a school counselor, prior to becoming an independent educational consultant, and prior to becoming the supervisor for a group of school counseling interns at Providence College, I started my educational career as a social studies teacher. So for a number of years, I taught middle school and high school social studies for the East Providence, Rhode Island School District. I think it's so important that we talk about Black History Month. And as I said, for me, Black history is 365 days a year. So what I just would like to do is just to share resources with people, books that you may be interested in reading. You know, right now, so many people are at home with their kids, doing homeschooling, trying to figure out how to help their children with online learning during this time of COVID. So there may be some books that I may share with you that may be of interest to you. There may be some other resources that I may share with you. Or for those of you that are looking for ways to improve your knowledge and figure out your next steps in this time of learning more about anti-racist resources and what have you, you may find something in here. So let's get started. I'm going to share my screen with you and we will get started on this. So as I said, these are college and career conversations with Dr. B. And one of the things we're going to do, as I said, is look at some resources that I think may be useful to you. And if you have any comments, if you have any resources that you might like to share, please make sure you pop them in the comments. Now remember, these resources are just a sample of what's out there. This is kind of what I've been looking at for the last 6 to 8 months. So this is not meant to be an exhaustive list of resources. This is just what's been coming across my table. So for those of you who were saying, well, why didn't she talk about such and such, or why didn't she show this book? Small sampling of what I'm looking at, what I've been reading. So let me start with what I've been reading. So let me see if we can get this over here. Okay, now because there are so many books, I'm going to actually just show you the books and we'll go from there. So these are just some sample of the books that I've been reading. Like I said, this past year, some I'm still on my list to read. I got one new book this morning that came in the that came delivered, with my UPS truck. There it was. So let me start off with, let's see. Okay. And some of these books, and I'm sure some of these books, you've heard about them so much, but they're books that I've read in the last few months. So I just want to share them with you. And again, the list of all these books will be in the show notes. Excuse me. So you can certainly go there and look at them. So of course, the series of books by Dr. Kendi, starting with How to Be an Antiracist. I found this very interesting. I learned a few new lessons myself, some strategies that I need to pay attention to. So again, you're probably seeing this on many reading lists this month and in the last few months since the book was published. Oh my God, I can't talk today. Since the book was published. So again, How to Be an Anti-Racist by Dr. Kendi. To go along with that, he also has Antiracist Baby. So this is one that you can share with young folks, with babies. I've actually given it to a few people as a baby shower gift. So again, Antiracist Baby. So this is one that I found really, really interesting. I've got so many books. I've got them like all over the place. And people that know me know I love books. One of the things I really need to do is use the library more and stop buying. But, you know, so I'm doing both. I'm doing both, getting better at that. So this one, Stamped from the Beginning, again, by Dr. Ibram Kendi. It is a great historical accounting of racist activity of systemic racism in the United States. Not just starting with the United States, he actually goes back to Europe and then shows how that affected policies that took place in the United States. So again, Stamped from the Beginning. Now, as a companion, because this one is, you know, this is more, I would say, more for adults or for some high-level young adults who like reading books of this caliber. He also partnered with Jason Reynolds, and they produced a younger version of Stamped from the Beginning. So this one is Stamped: Racism, Anti-Racism in You. And if anybody is familiar with Jason Reynolds as a young adults author, you will know that this is a really great book to share with young folks. So again, those are the books from Dr. Kendi. So let me see what else I have over here. Oh, one of my absolutely favorite books that I've read, and as you can see, I've got all my little notes in there, is Caste by Isabel Wilkerson. Now, she is not related. There's no relation, unfortunately. I would love to have a conversation with her. Caste, The Origins of Our Discontent. And if you haven't had the opportunity to read Mrs. Wilkerson's first book, it's about The Warmth of Other Suns, which is about the Great Migration. So that's another great book to read. So again, as I said, these are books that I've been reading like the past 6 to 8 months. This is not, again, meant to be an exhaustive listing of all the books that are out there, but I definitely want people to know. So people may say, you know, well, I don't know what to read first. I don't know what I should start on first. So here's a sampling. One of the nice things about most of these books is when you buy the book or when you get the book out from your library, you will find that quite a few of these books have discussion questions or a reading guide that accompany them online. So if you belong to a book club, or if you would just like some guidance while you're reading the book, you know, put in the title and put in, you know, discussion questions or reading guide. And I know they have it for Caste. They also have plenty of videos where they are interviewing the author. So check that out. So here's another book. So let's see. This is actually Why Are All the Black Kids Sitting Together in the Cafeteria and Other Conversations About Race. This is actually a revised, updated edition of this book. The original was published in 1997, and I do remember reading it when that book came out then. But the author, Beverly Tatum, Dr. Tatum, has revised it, has updated it. So again, this is a great book to read, to get some more information, some more statistics. You know, we all need to be educated about what's happening in our society. Even as a social studies teacher, there were times that there were books that weren't available to us to use with our students. We had, you know, certain social studies books that were used by our school district. So there were so many gaps in history. So again, this is another good book that I think you'd find interesting. And let me see what I have over here. Okay, so over here, this is by Jon Meacham. His Truth is Marching On, John Lewis and the Power of Hope. And if you're familiar with the work of Jon Meacham, he is a Pulitzer Prize winning author, and he does a wonderful job here of giving us information and telling us about John Lewis. So again, if you have the opportunity to do this, to read this, please do so. So I have one, somebody said they heard Caste was great. Yes, so let me put, so thank you so much, Deirdre, said she heard Caste was great and still has to read The Warmth of Other Suns. Caste is fabulous. The Warmth of Other Suns is really good. You know what I really enjoyed about The Warmth of Other Suns? When I read that, I realized that my family was part of the Great Migration. So my mom was born in Mississippi. And when my grandfather died, my grandmother moved her family eventually from Mississippi to Illinois. So they were part of that Great Migration. You know, she sought a better life for her and her young children, and they were part of that Great Migration. So again, that is a fantastic book, and it's part of my history. Caste is fascinating. So again, that's another book that, like I said, that I'd recommend. And again, the Jon Meacham's book. I haven't started reading this. This was a gift from my dear friend Antoinette Batiste. So I haven't started reading that yet. I have so many books on my shelf that I need to read, but I have like 3 books going right now. So it's just trying to get through all these books, but I'm savoring each one of them. So again, here's another book that I think would definitely be an addition to your library, your personal library, or use your local library to take the book out. Okay, let's see. I have so many books back there. It's like crazy. Now, this book I found really interesting. Down along with that Devil's Bones, A Reckoning with Monuments, Memory, and the Legacy of White Supremacy. So what's so interesting about this one is that the author, Connor Towne O'Neill, actually is talking about Confederate monuments. And in particular, he's talking about monuments that were erected to honor Nathan Bedford Forrest. So it's absolutely fascinating because I never really knew all of the history behind him. And he does a really great job of talking about Confederate monuments because, you know, there's been so much conversation around the monuments, whether or not they should remain, whether or not they should be taken down, you know, should they remain as part of, you know, history or what have you. So when you read this, yeah, he really makes you think. And so again, down along with that Devil's Bones, A Reckoning with Monuments, Memory, and the Legacy of White Supremacy. So Tracy, you said that's a great title. Which one are you talking about? That's a great title. Because I'm kind of like flying through these because, like I said, I don't want to make people get like, say, oh my God, but I love books. So I just need to like make sure that I share books with people because that's my thing. A Promised Land. A Promised Land by Barack Obama. 700 and something pages, folks. This is volume 1. I'm about right there. So right now I am on page, let me see, where am I? I am on page 432. So I've got a little bit more reading to do here. But it's been fascinating again so far. So again, anything that you are looking for additional resources for Black History Month. And like I said, Black history is 365 days a year. It's not just the month of February. And as a social studies teacher, just as a teacher, as an educator, I think it's so important that we really understand that this is about 365 days. It's Black history, it's American history. So we really need to pay attention to that. So let me see what else I have over here for you. Oh my goodness, there are just so many books over here. Okay, here are a few more. Biased. Uncovering the Hidden Prejudice That Shapes What We See, Think, and Do. And this is by Dr. Jennifer Eberhardt, who is a professor at Stanford University. And she does a fabulous job of talking about implicit bias and what all of that is. Now, another great thing, before I actually started reading the book, Dr. Eberhardt has a fantastic podcast interview on, I think it's on the Good Life Project. Yeah. So I actually, all of that I will put in the show notes so that if you also want to listen to her interview, you can. She also has a TED Talk. So that's something that you might want to listen to before you start reading the book. But again, this is about educating ourselves. It's about knowing our history, knowing the history of the United States, knowing how we got to where we are today. This didn't just happen. There were things that were put in place that were meant to be that way. So when I hear people say the system is broken, the system is not broken. The system is working the way it was designed to work. When you start reading these books, when you start reading your history, our history, the history of the United States, you'll understand that. One of my favorite authors, and I love listening to this gentleman when he's on talk shows and what have you, is Michael Eric Dyson's book, Long Time Coming: Reckoning with Race in America. So this is fabulous because he's really he really has a way of looking at cultural and racial systems in the United States. So again, this is another great one to read. Michael Eric Dyson, Long Time Coming. So again, read that one. Like I said, I'm going through these pretty fast because, like I said, I don't want to bore people, but I think it's great. So let's see. So somebody's asking me, so Deandra is asking, have I read Medical Apartheid? No, I have not. Who's the author of that, Deandra? Thank you for sharing that. So, Deandra, I'm trying to cut back on my my bookshelves here. Like my husband has told me that I'm not allowed to like bring any more books in the house. Actually, I was at Barnes and Noble this morning, and I did buy one book, and then the UPS truck came and bought another book. So sometimes I forget that I ordered books, and there are books that I like to get from the library, but certain books I just want to keep. I want to have them. I need to have a hard copy so that I can like make my notes in them so that when I go back and want to use it for something else, I've marked off what I want to, what resonated with me. So this is a book. I read this a while ago, but I love it. I absolutely love it. So for those that aren't familiar, Just Mercy. Yes, Tracy, I do. Tracy said, Tracy says I have book issues. I do have book issues. I haven't met a bookstore, or I go on Barnes and Nobles or go in a bookstore just to like smell the books, just to be surrounded by books. A bookstore and libraries are my happy places. You just go in there and it just overtakes you, and I get so excited when I'm in a bookstore. So this, Just Mercy. Now, many of you may be familiar with this because maybe you watched the movie with Michael B. Jordan and Jamie Foxx, but really read the book. And a little later, I'm going to introduce you to another resource that is at the Equal Justice Initiative, which was created by Bryan Stevenson, who is the author of this book. But Just Mercy is a fabulous, fabulous book. Okay, thank you, Deirdre. So as you said, Harriet Washington. Let's see. Harriet Washington, so that's the author of the book Medical Apartheid. And I will put that in the show notes for anyone else that is interested in reading that book. So I will definitely add that in there. Now, one of the things that I get to do is, as I said earlier, one of the things that I do is I'm also the college supervisor for the school counseling program at Providence College in Rhode Island. So I'm doing all that virtually with my interns. So this year we have 19 interns. And as school counselors, part of their responsibility is advocating for all of their students. So we also, as educators, we need to make sure that we're giving them the tools that they need in order to do this work. So here's this fantastic book. So this is geared towards school counselors, but I think any educator would benefit from reading this. It's called Interrupting Racism, Equity, and Social Justice in School Counseling. and it's by Rebecca Atkins and Alicia Oglesby. And Rebecca actually is a counselor, a school counselor in North Carolina. And Alicia, I want to say, is in DC. So Alicia, pardon me if I get your location wrong, but this, again, this is a great book for any educator. What I like about one of the things they do is they have case studies in there. And it's important for people to be able to think about how they would act in certain ways and what they would do, and the importance of why it's important to interrupt racism. But one of the other things that they do that I think is so important for school counselors is helping school counselors understand the importance of using data when they're making, when they're advocating for students. Like, first of all, when you're looking at your data, are you looking at your suspension rate, or you're looking at the number of Black students that are taking AP in your school? I remember when I was a high school counselor, that was always an issue. You know, you'd look in the AP classes and you're like, okay, so I know we have Black students in the school that are capable of doing AP work. Why aren't they in this classes? And we found out that there were so many barriers to students going into AP that provided inequitable situations for Black students. So we had to work on that, but you had to come with the data. So that's one of the things that I really love about this book, because it does a great job of helping school counselors understand that aspect of it. So let me see what else I have for you. So this, wait a minute. I'll talk about that one later. So this one, a new book, haven't even cracked it open yet. This is the one that came from UPS today. 400 Souls. This is edited by Ibram Kendi and Keisha Blaine. And what they did is they invited 90 authors to contribute to this volume, where they looked at a community history of African American from 1619 to 2019. This is just looking at the list of authors on the back had me salivating. I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait to read the chapters for these particular authors. Yes, you were just checking this out, Deirdre. I know. I kept looking at it and I kept saying, oh, I don't know if I'm going to get it. I don't know if I'm going to get it, because I still have all these other books I need to read. Then, unfortunately, so like I followed Dr. Kendi, on his Facebook page, and there was a short video where he was talking about this book and the authors, and I said, okay, that's it. Let me get it, so I'll have it. I don't want to wake up in the middle of the night and I don't have a book to read, God forbid. So again, this is my newest book. Now, I think it's also important to recognize that Black history comes in all forms. This photography book, I just love it. I just absolutely love it. So this is called Glory, Magical Visions of Black Beauty, and it's by Karen and Regis Betancourt. You may have seen their photos on their Facebook page or on social media. What they have done is they have created these absolutely beautiful photos of young folks dressed in all kinds of African gear. I mean, some of the photos are just incredible. But even better than the photos, they also give stories. They tell you a little bit about the young person who they are photographing, something about their lives. And these are young people who are in the United States and people that are in other countries. The photography is incredible. It's incredible. And their company, trying to figure out what the name of their photography company is. So they are Creative Soul Photography. So if you Google them or look for them, and I will put that also in the show notes, but Creative Soul Photography, and just look at the beautiful, beautiful photos that they've created with these young people. It's absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. Who doesn't like to eat? So think about the food that a lot of folks love in the South or in other parts of the United States, but particularly in the South. So many of the dishes that people love in the South originated in Africa and became part of our culture when enslaved Africans brought it over to the United States, of what became the United States. This book by Marcus Samuelsson, and some of you will probably recognize Marcus Samuelsson. It's called The Rise, Black Cooks and the Soul of American Food. It is fantastic. So in the book, he highlights different Black chefs, but also gives some history behind the dishes that they're cooking, gives you some background about how they came to be chefs, and these beautiful photographs in here, of the dishes. It's just an absolutely beautiful, beautiful volume. So again, Marcus Samuelsson, The Rise, Black Cooks and the Soul of American Food. So for those students that are thinking about going into culinary arts, it's important to know, how did some of the most loved dishes of the United States come about? African Americans are such a huge part of the culinary history of the United States. So again, this is another great book to read. Now, so one of the things, so let me share my screen with you again. And we'll just move over here. So one of my favorite new things is the Equal Justice Initiative. So this is the organization that was started by Bryan Stevenson, who is the one that wrote Just Mercy. So one of the things that they're offering, and they've offered for a couple of years, is this calendar. Okay. So you can go to that site. Whoops, let me get over here. You can go to that site and you can order this calendar. This calendar is absolutely wonderful. Now, one of the things, so I remember somebody said to me, well, why would I want to get a calendar? Black History Month is only 28 days. No, this is 365 days of Black history. And one of the things that they do, so for each day of the year, you will see that there is information about that particular date in history. It just so happens, this is the book I read earlier last year when it came out, trying to make sure the light's on this right, My Vanishing Country, a memoir by Bakari Sellers. And this is such a coincidence that this happened today. So let me just read you what it says on the calendar for February 8th. So February 8th, this was in 1968. White state troopers fire into a crowd of African-American students at South Carolina State College, killing 3 and injuring 28 after students attempt to desegregate a bowling alley. One of the ironic things that just worked out, Bakari Sellers' dad, Cleveland Sellers, was one of the students that was injured during that situation. And it was one of those situations that I really didn't know that much about it until I read this book. So again, students at South Carolina State College were having a protest and were trying to integrate a bowling alley. People wanted to bowl. And there was a shooting. 3 students were killed. Nothing ever happened to the folks that killed the students. But this book is really good. So in this book, Bakari Sellers, it's a memoir. So he's telling us about his life growing up, always knowing about civil rights because his dad was a civil rights activist. So again, this book by Bakari Sellers, My Vanishing Country, is a great book to read. But also, this calendar makes great gifts. And one calendar is $6, but like if you buy 10, you can get It comes out, I think it's like $33 for a pack of 10. These make great gifts. I'm giving these out to young folks that I know because it's something I think they need to know. They need to know their history. So this is a great way where they can do, a day, some history every single day. So let me go to our next category. Let me share this with you again. So one of the other things, as I said, I do is, do a lot of work with students, counselors doing work. I had the opportunity to attend a webinar the other night where my friend and colleague, Ethan Sawyer, who was also known as the college essay guy, was sharing this with the audience. So 40 plus ways counselors can help bring about more equity to the college admission process. Within this document, there are way more than 40 ways that counselors can help students, because as educators, we all need to be working with students to do this, and we also need to educate ourselves. That is the URL where it is a Google Doc, so you can use that URL to access it. There is so much on that that's going to keep you busy for a couple of years. So I just wanted to share that with you. I think I ran out of books for now. I mean, I had more, but I didn't want to just keep talking about, keep showing books. So one of the last things I want to talk about, let's see if this is going to just move over for me. Okay. So some of you may have seen this diagram around. I think one of the things that I love about it is all of us are in some place on this continuum. And I think it's important that we think about where we are. Now, in conversations that I've had with people, sometimes folks have said that they're very uncomfortable talking about certain things. They're not sure what they should say or what they shouldn't say. So this is a starting place using this document. Now, one of the interesting things about this graphic is that this was created by Dr. Andrew Ibrahim, who does a lot of work in design work and looking at healthcare issues. And he created this based on some of the work of Dr. Kendi, because he said, you can't talk about healthcare with talking about racial issues within healthcare. And as we see from what we're hearing about with COVID and vaccines and death rates and what have you, we know that's an issue. And also the book Deirdre recommended about medical apartheid. So definitely we know that's an issue. So again, I just want people to think about, like, where are you on this continuum? Are you in the fear zone? If you are, what are you going to do to move past that? Are you in the learning zone or the growth zone? I find myself going back and forth between the learning and the growth zone. There are times that I have to educate myself about something that's along the lines of race and structural racism, because remember now, I grew up in the United States, so I've also been indoctrinated or immersed in systemic and structural racism all my life. That's all I've known in the United States. So I have to go back and forth and think about, okay, how do I fill in my own knowledge gaps? And that's why I do so much reading. That's why I attend as many webinars as I can. And I really encourage all of you, when you have the opportunity to do so, because we're all in this country together. That URL that you see, that is, you can get this graphic in a PDF, so that if you want to have an opportunity to share this with other people, you can do so. And you can also read Dr. Ibrahim's bio there, so you can learn a little bit more about his work and why he is doing this particular work and using this particular diagram to do his work. So let me scroll back over here, because I think that's the last thing I have for you this evening. Okay, it is the last thing I have for you this evening. So again, I just really want folks to understand that Black History isn't just the month of February, 28 days in February, and then during a leap year, the 29. This is about, Black History is 365 days a year. And there are more than enough resources out there for us to access in order to learn more. I feel it's my duty as an educator to share resources with people. And like I said, this is just a sampling. These are just resources that I've been using in the last 6 to 8 months. There are so many more resources out there that you could be using. I strongly encourage people to use their public library. So again, this is the URL for if you live in Cumberland County in North Carolina. This is the URL for our local library. So you can go on there, you can reserve a book, you can download an audio book from the system. Whatever state you're in, I'm sure your library, if it's not open, it's doing some kind of curbside pickup. It probably has an audio app that you can use to download audiobooks. So please make sure you use that. You do not have to be like me and spend all your money on books. You can also use the library. Now, I do use the library, but like I said, there are just some books that I just want to have for my personal library, so then I will go out and do it. And I encourage everyone, if you're buying a book, buy from a Black bookstore, from an independent bookstore, buy from bookshop.com, or is it bookshop.org? I'll put it in the show notes, whereas some of the money goes to, a portion of the money goes to small independent bookstores. So again, Amazon's doing okay, so they don't need more money from us. So just check out some of the Black bookstores, and I'll put a link in the show notes that gives you a listing of different Black bookstores around the United States. Now, more college and career information, subscribe to my newsletter. Here's the URL to subscribe to the newsletter. So I would love for you to do that. And if you need to look at past videos and you want to learn more, please, this is my YouTube channel, so you can just go on my YouTube channel. And if you go on the YouTube channel, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Trying to increase my number of subscribers, and I would love, 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 love to get it up into triple digits. So I'm looking for your help in doing that. So definitely do that. As I said, newsletter, love for you to do that. Please join me. I can't wait on February 22nd. Is it the 22nd or the 26th? I think it's the 26th. I'm messing up my dates. I have a wonderful author that is going to be joining me. And as a matter of fact, I have his book right here. So if you want to get the book ahead of time so you can read it, it's called Turn On Your Light by Seneca Wilson. He is a motivational speaker, an author, and a poet. And the book was absolutely delightful. It's just the right touch if you're feeling like there's something missing, like you're not being all that you can be. So I'm really looking forward to having Seneca Wilson with us. It's in the, look at my event calendar. You will see the date there. Let me just make sure I have the right date. I've got, it's actually February 22nd. So it's the last Monday of the month. So join me then for Seneca Wilson, Turn On Your Light. So I look forward to seeing you folks next week. Join us for another college and career conversation. Share this with your college-bound students. Share this with your middle school students, your high school students. Share this with educators you know. It's so important that we pay attention to the history of the United States and how we got to be where we are today. So again, this is Dr. B from Steps to the Future. I thank you so much for joining in. And for those of you that are watching on the replay, I look forward to reading your comments. And let me know about some of the books that you're reading and what you're thinking about them. And if you have more books to recommend, please let me know. You know how to reach me. Just go on my Facebook page, send me a message. Okay, Dr. B from Steps to the Future. Thank you so much for joining in, and I will see you all next Monday. Take care, everyone, and stay safe and wear your mask.